Yo, what's up guys, it's Trev back again here bringing another video. So this time we're doing a video talking about the ACBA World Tournament. If you guys don't know, the tournament's on right now. The first round just ended, and Boog is releasing the scores for it, and everybody who kind of got through to the next round, and you know what the scores were and that kind of stuff. So I was lucky enough to be chosen as a judge for the tournament to kind of go through the entries and you know, a few of the entries that he gave me, and you know, score them based on the scoring system. So if you guys are interested in the scoring system or anything like that, you can go check out Boog's earlier videos. He's got a video talking about, it's with a display, Fantastic Four spacesuit moon display. And, you know, he talks about kind of like the scoring system and everything like that, so you can go check that out if you're interested in finding out what that's all about. Also, if you want to see the entries, you can go ahead and go to Boog's video about the ACBA Round 1 World Tournament. All of the entries should be posted as responses to that video, so you can go check that out. You can look through all the responses. What I'm going to be doing in this video is I'm going to be going through and going through all of the entries that I judged, and basically, you know, stating why I gave people the scores I did for each one, and you know, why people got certain scores for things I liked. And then at the end, I'll go through, you know, overall for round 1, what my favorite displays were and you know, pieces were. So let's get into the people that I was scoring. So we'll start from the top. I was given Charles Dukes, Leblanc 116, PoopyHeadAlan, Fernando Tron, the Great Toy Review, Collecticon, of course, Cannons, Blanus 666, F3R PQS, ShartimusPrime, MrMarvelicious, 100 Luke Zade, TenaciousRic, MKPN, and yeah, that's it. So all of them. So any of you who, you know, any of them, if you're interested to see what your scores are and that kind of stuff, you know, I'll go over it in this video right now. Anybody else who's just interested to see, you know, the displays and what I thought of each, stay tuned. We're going to switch now into display mode so I can show you the displays as we talk about it. Okay, let's get started. Alright, what's up guys? So, the first one we're going to look at is going to be Charles Dukes. So, this display I really liked. This was a great display. It's simple in idea, you know, just having the Avengers kind of breaking out of a building, but its execution is really what makes it special and, you know, really makes it something unique in that, you know, the effects that he used, the poses that Charles had him in. I mean, this guy can pose. If you guys haven't seen his videos, I highly recommend you go check him out. He just did one of Magneto lifting up some cars and shit, and it's one of the coolest things I've ever seen. I've actually even thought about maybe, you know, doing one myself like that, just try to kind of emulate what he did. I mean, this guy is, he's dope when it comes to posing and effects and just everything. I mean, he takes simple ideas, but he makes them look so cool, and this is a good example of that. So, yeah, his score was 39 out of 50, so 78% overall, which is a really, really good score. Got him on to the next round. For posing, I gave him a 10 out of 10 because his posing is just, you know, it's spot on. It's pretty much perfect. I mean, I couldn't really find anything wrong with any of his poses. You know, as they were breaking through, Vision was looking awesome. You know, Giant Man was looking good. Everybody just looked really, really, you know, like it looked fluid. Their motions looked fluid as they were coming through that wall. It really told the story just through his poses and the effects and everything. You know, it's a simple idea, but, you know, there's no confusion there about what they're doing, basically, or what's going on in that frame. You know pretty much exactly what's happening in that frame, that display right there. The effects, I gave him an 8 out of 10. Really good effects. You know, maybe could have used a few more to get, you know, a higher score than that, but 8 out of 10 is really good. So, you know, no problem with the effects. Everything looked really good. The bricks flying everywhere, you know, everything like that. You know, the Thor, lightning, all that stuff, really, really cool. Props and backdrop, I gave him an 8 out of 10 because it was good. I mean, you know, no problems. It was great. Everything looked good. Compo cutouts, I gave him a 7. The Avengers Assemble one was really well done, really looked good. You know, I don't really know this type of display if you want to put more cutouts. I mean, I guess if you added on more, you know, it could have gotten a higher score, but it's not really that type of display. So that's just the way it is, you know, 7 for that one. And then creativity, originality, I gave him a 6 because it is kind of a basic idea, but the posing, the effects, the backdrop, all coming together really tell the story and make it something special. So yeah, so that's 39 out of 50 for Charles Duke's 6th display, and really an amazing ACBA artist. definitely check him out. Check out that Magneto display in his channel and sub him if you haven't. Okay, let's go on to the next. Okay, so this one's going to be Leblanc 116. So this one overall I gave a 33, so it's pretty good. Not the greatest, not the worst. You know, pretty good, pretty average. This display was sort of like a Gotham City Batman villain, sort of like you know, meetup, you know, type of display where they're all, you know, kind of had their own plans of, you know, how they're going to kill Batman, that kind of stuff, and they were kind of talking to each other all throughout. And you know, it was like an indoor display, so it kind of looked like inside of a building. There was some, you know, cool like layouts in the back, like about killing Batman and stuff like that, and pretty cool to see all the villains together. Definitely awesome to see some DC love, because, you know, a couple years ago there was like no DC ACBA, DC Universe is all Marvel, so kind of cool to see DC love every you know, now and then. As far as the scores for his posing, I gave him a 7. You know, pretty good, not too bad. Some of the poses I just felt like were a little off. The pose on Catwoman, I just felt like was kind of like a little bit off. Some of the other ones too were here and there. It was okay though. You know, nothing bad about it. Just, you know, just average, nothing crazy, but not bad either. Effects, I gave him a 6. There wasn't too many effects in this because there wasn't a whole lot really going on. I mean, the stuff that they were saying to each other and the stuff that they were, you know, doing and that kind of stuff, and the backdrops and everything together, that's why I gave a 6. With no effects, usually we give like a 2. So giving a 6 is, you know, that's not bad for the effects. It's just, you know, could have used a little bit more. I'm not sure what, but maybe adding on to the idea or something. Maybe Batman, you know, crashing in the top of the building or something like that, you know, would have been cool for get a higher score in that part. Props and backdrop, I gave a 7 because it did fit the room pretty well. I mean, you could tell, like, you know, they were kind of indoor and what was going on for the most part, and the props were kind of cool, like the, you know, the table and everything and the chair. It looked nice, it looked good. So 7 out of 10 for that. Combo cutouts, I gave a 6 just because a lot of them weren't very clean. Some of them weren't cut, you know, around completely clean, so, you know, there were some edges cut off and stuff. And there was a lot of them used, and some of them weren't pointed in the right spots, so they weren't exactly like, they didn't look like they were coming from the person's or the character's mouth. So that was the thing with comic house I gave a 6 for. Creativity, originality, I gave a 7 for. So, you know, average, nothing crazy, nothing bad. You know, just average for that. So a total of 33 for the Leblanc 116. It was a cool display. I did like it overall. Love to see some DC displays for sure. But, you know, I gotta be, I can't be biased in any way towards the scoring. I gotta score it as I see it. So 33 for that one. All right, let's move on to the next one. Okay, so now PoopyHeadAlan's up, and his display of the hood, kind of, you know, in a back alley type thing, just, you know, kind of talking to himself and, you know, feeling a little bit of remorse for some of the stuff he's done about killing just 2 people. So this one overall, I like this display. I gave this a 40 out of 50, so a pretty high score for this one. It was really good. The posing I gave a 7 for, just because the poses were good. Like the pose on the hood was good, really good, and the dead guys was good too. The effects I gave a 9 because I like the effect of the light kind of you know, coming in and off, and the green was really nice. So that was a 9 out of 10. You know, superb effects. You know, just awesome. You know, kind of went over and above for that. So definitely a 9 for that. Props and backdrop I gave an 8. Definitely looked like, you know, like a, you know, damp, dark alleyway type scene, and that was very cool. Comic book cutouts I gave a 7 to because they were good. You know, you could clearly tell what he was saying, and everything was good like that, and it looked like it was coming from, you know, him and everything. So that was all cool. And creativity, originality, I gave a 9 out of 10. Very creative, very original idea, very cool. You know, kind of having that you know, that villain kind of feeling remorse about the situation, having that. You know, kind of looking back at what he's done, and with a gun out in front of him and stuff, and you know, this was just a very cool display all around. I really like this display a lot. So you know, it deserves the 40 out of 50. It was a really great display, kind of similar in some ways to Mindless Spot Tubes, but I'll get into that later on. Not really similar. I shouldn't say that, but it, you know, just kind of the feel is a little bit similar. But it was really cool display. I really like this one. So excellent job. Definitely check his channel out too. Yeah, let's move on to the next. Alright, cool. So for this one is FFERNANDOTRON's. So this display was a cool display. This was like a Masters of the Universe display with Skeletor and his minions around, and I thought it was kind of cool. He's saying, like, you know, I'm surrounded by incompetence. And I think this chick's name is Eva Lynn, and she just, you know, zapped somebody or turned them into something. It was a cool display overall with you know, the villains standing around and that kind of stuff. I gave it a 33 total. Posing, I gave it a 6 because the main reason with that was that you know, there was a lot of guys just kind of standing around in there, more like a collection display piece type thing rather than like a scene that's really telling a story. So that's why I gave, you know, like with posing, I gave it a 6 out of 10 because there wasn't too many poses. I mean, Skeletor's pose was decent on the chair, but then a lot of other guys, it just seemed like they were kind of standing around the back. So, you know, adding more on is not always a good thing, I think, when it comes to, you know, the art form and that kind of stuff, because, you know, when doing that, you know, if you just have, you know, characters just standing there, like it doesn't really add anything to the display. It just, you know, kind of puts more figures in there, and they look cool and stuff. I'm not saying that they don't. It's just that I don't really see how they relate to, you know, you're surrounded by them, that kind of stuff. But you know, if they're just standing there for posing, that's gonna, you know, that's gonna take away from the posing for sure. Effects, I gave it a 6. The effects were okay. I like the you know, the cutout for the where Evelyn's turning whatever it was into whatever zap, and that was pretty cool. But other than that, there was really no effects hardly at all. So I couldn't really give that a higher score. Some of these videos have tons of effects, so compared to that, you know, I can't really give too much. Props and backdrops, I gave it a 6. It was decent. I liked the prop for Skeletor's throne. The backdrop was pretty plain. I didn't think it was too much going on there, so I gave that one a 6 too. Compo cutouts, I gave a 9 to. That was really, you know, the strongest of this video was the cutouts. The cutouts looked really nice, really clean, you know, very comic book-ish, you know, like, you know, coming out at you. Those looked really good, and the way that they were positioned and everything, Skeletor was talking, like, that was really good. So that was definitely a 9 out of 10 for sure. And creativity, originality, I gave that a 6 out of 10. I just felt like, you know, maybe, you know, something else could have been going, like more stuff could have been going on. Could have told more of a story. Like, you know, Skeletor saying, you know, I'm surrounded by incompetence. You know, I just felt like, you know, but why? You know what I mean? Like maybe to me it isn't obvious because I'm not a big Masters of the Universe guy. But I couldn't really see, you know, I couldn't really think of what's happening to cause him to say that. You know what I mean? If there's something that, if it was more obvious what happened previous to that to lead him to that, then I think this would get a, you know, a higher score, that kind of stuff. So. But yeah, so that's that. You know, could have maybe showed something else going on elsewhere or something, or, you know, something else. I think it just needed a little more when it came to creativity and, you know, the scene, you know, becoming an art piece on its own. So this one was a 33 overall. Not bad at all. Tied with Leblanc 116's FFERNANDOTRON. So definitely a cool guy. Check out his channel and everything. Decent video. Now we'll go on to the next. All right, now we're going to get into JMRJ Hulk's display. So this was a cool display overall. The Avengers just chilling out. Had some really cool little pieces here and there in this video that I thought were just dope. A big display overall, and something I really liked because, you know, he really could have just done a couple pieces of this and it would have been a nice display on its own, but he did so much going on and you know, an awesome backdrop for the whole thing that it really worked out really well. Some really cool parts in this. You've got one of the brothers through, I forget which one his name is, he's given like a rose or something, like flower type thing to Miss Marvel. You've got Human Torch just chilling in like a fountain type thing. That's awesome. You've got you know, Cap and Iron Man doing their thing. 3 3/4 inch display, very well executed. For posing, I gave him a 7. Posing was pretty good, you know, overall. So no complaints there, but nothing crazy also. Effects, I gave him an 8 because there was some cool effects with the different stuff they were doing, and you know, just all kinds of different little effects to add to the scenes, and you know, what was going on when they were chilling. Props and backdrops. This one is a 10 for me. This is a perfect 10 when it comes to props and backdrops. This thing was sick. You know, it was a whole environment on its own. And I think this is really where 3 3/4 inch figures shine, is when you put them in like a big display, and you have you know, a lot of stuff going on, and you know, an awesome environment and background. So it's easier to build backgrounds for them than it is for 6-inch figures. You know, you can just do it on a smaller scale, and it's easier to do. So that's a 10 out of 10 for props and backdrop for me. Everything looked great. You know, the kind of like the forestry, and you know, the plants and everything, the rocks, the fountain, everything just looked awesome in this. A perfect 10 for props and backdrop. Combo cutouts is kind of where it dropped a bit. I gave it a 5 for combo cutouts, just because a lot of the cutouts just really didn't, you know, match up to the characters' mouths. Like, it didn't look like, you know, if it was a speech bubble, it wasn't necessarily at the character's mouth, which is, that's kind of a big problem, you know, because it doesn't really look like the you know, the person saying it. Like some of them were off by quite a bit, so definitely that one needed some improvement. 5 out of 10. Creativity, originality, I gave it 8. It was good. It was a good idea. Some of the ideas in it, like the Human Torch at the fountain, the flower, that kind of stuff, those were really cool, creative ideas. Overall, this was a 38 out of 50. This was really good. Great display. Definitely check this guy's displays out. He's got some awesome stuff. All right, on to the next. All right, so now we're doing Rocco the Great's the Great Toy Review. This guy's cool. I've seen him in you know, Marvel forums and stuff, Marvelous News and that kind of stuff before. I haven't seen too many displays from him yet, but this one was a pretty good display. He did like kind of Resident Evil with some zombies, and you guys know I love me some zombies. You know. So, but yeah, like I said, I gotta try to be as you know, unbiased as possible. So, you know, but yeah, so this was a pretty good display overall. I think he's kind of a newcomer. I don't think he's been doing too many displays up until you know, recently. So this was a really good start for sure. I gave this a 34 overall out of 50, so a good score. Posing, I gave it a 5. Some of the poses were a little bit off. Just a little bit, you know. For example, the zombie, as he's breaking the window and stuff, there's the guy right there, but the zombie's not actually, if you look at him closely, he's not, his head isn't actually looking at the guy, you know, the I don't know the Resident Evil characters' names or whatever. He's not actually looking at the you know, the STARS member, if it is, or the police guy. He's looking kind of like away from him, like kind of to the left, and so that's why I gave this a 5 out of posing, because that's a key part of the display. And the zombie's head is kind of off in my, where he's looking is kind of off in my opinion. And some of the other poses too were a little bit off here and there, so that's why I gave that a 5. Effects, I gave it a 7. It looked cool, you know, the breaking through the glass and that kind of stuff, and all that kind of stuff. Watch your back, cool stuff. It looked pretty good, so I gave that a 7. Props and backshot, I gave that an 8. You know, it looked good. It did look really good. It set the scene. Everything was really nice. There could have been more added to it, but it was good as for what it was. 8 out of 10 for sure for that. Comic book cutouts, I gave this a 7. The comic book cutouts were good. Maybe could have used a few more, and maybe the placement could have been a bit better to get a little bit higher. Creativity, originality, I gave it a 6. You know, it's a decent display. It's a cool idea. It's not anything new because, you know, that people have done zombie displays before and that kind of stuff. But it's good overall. A 34 for Rocco. All right, next. Okay, now we're going to get into Collecticon's video. So I want to say at this point, because we're getting into some guys now that have got pretty big names and people know them, they've been doing videos for a while, with Shardamus coming up in Kansas and some other guys. I'm being totally unbiased with these you know, the grading and these reviews of the displays. I don't care if it's somebody who's got awesome videos and has been doing their thing for years. That doesn't matter. Each video is completely, you know, unique, and, you know, I'm grading it based on the video itself and on the display, you know, and the art. I'm not grading it on anything they've done in the past. If they've had awesome art before, like if they won last year or whatever, that doesn't carry through. You know, every display has to speak for itself. I want to get that out of the way now because some of these guys have big names. I don't want anybody to think that I'm being biased or anything like that. Believe me, I was, you know, it didn't matter. I just blocked that out of my mind and just graded what I saw. So for Collecticons, this display was dope. This display was sick. There's no question about it. This was one of the best displays out of the entire first round. No question about it. This was either, you know, it's definitely in the top 3 of my favorite displays for the whole round. 43 out of 50 overall. Posing, I gave it a 10. This was just, the poses were perfect. You know, I knew what was going on with every character as I could see it. You know, like you've got Mystique going into the police, you know, the cop car there. You've got the cops kind of, you know, like she's got her hands up. You know, the cops are kind of, you know, they all look fluid, they all look natural, which is, you know, kind of tough to do with 3 3/4 inch figures versus 6 inch. I find it's easier to pose 6 inch figures than it is to pose 3 3/4 inch. So for him to be able to do all of this with 3 3/4 inch, this looked great. It was a 10 for me and perfect because there's a scene where Sunfire, the X-Men Sunfire, he is kind of like peeking a corner, and the way he's posed, you can tell right away that he's peeking it. He's not exactly just, you know, looking out. You know, he's kind of got his body positioned in such a way where you can tell. You got Cable with one leg up on, you know, part of the building. I mean, the poses in this were off the chain. They were just perfect, man. I didn't see a single thing wrong with any pose, and you know, just amazing posing in this one. Perfect for that. Effects, I gave it an 8. There could have been a few more effects. I think that is one of the categories in this one that, you know, it could have been a little bit better when it came to effects. There wasn't too many effects, but you know, 8 out of 10 is a really good score for something. So what I did was I kind of considered the blood on the ground as being effects, the video that was playing in the background, that as being, you know, an effect sort of. You know, all of these different things kind of come together, and it did look really nice. So I had to give it an 8 for the effects overall, even though they weren't kind of like direct effects, but they were definitely, you know, subtle effects, so that was good. Props and backdrops, how can I not give this a 10? I mean, how many of us could just go and make a backdrop display like that? A whole freaking, like, you know, city display like that. I mean, you know, that was dope, man. You've got multi-level, you know, parts. Like, how can you not give that perfect? Multi-level parts with holes blasted in buildings. Like, that was crazy. You know, the street and everything. Like, oh my God, man, that was just amazing. 10 out of 10 for props and backdrop, no question about it. Combo cutouts, I only gave a 6. There wasn't very many, so you know, that's definitely one thing he could have added here, was more combo cutouts, more people talking, more dialogue. That would have definitely put this display even higher, but this was a sick display regardless. 6 out of 10 for combo cutouts, and creativity, originality, I gave this a 9. 9 out of 10. You know, just an awesome idea, an awesome display. It looked great. It was very cool. I didn't have a problem with this display at all. So 43 out of 50, a great score for an amazing piece of art. Alright, that's for this one. Alright, so now we're going to do Canon's display. So this display was hilarious. I laughed so hard when I saw this display, and I thought it was just great. And I thought it would score higher, but then when I actually went into the scoring, you know, it didn't score so well. It was a total of 30. And I'll go over why. I mean, this thing was this was funny as hell. You know, Skrull invasion to a whole new level. That was just great. But okay, so let's go on the score. So posing was a 7. I mean, you could clearly tell what was going on. There was no confusion about it. You knew what was happening there, and that was good. Effects. Here's the problem with this display, and I love this display, and you know, unfortunately, it doesn't get you know, a higher score, but that's just the way it turns out. Because effects, you know, I had to give this a 2 because there really weren't any effects. I mean, I didn't, you know, like, what can I consider an effect here? The way you can see, nothing really. There's really no effects at all. Maybe if he would have had like Spider-Man kind of peeking a window and seeing what's going on and losing his head or something, or you know, like something like that. You know, to add to the effects. You know, a web shoot, something. Who knows? Like, that could have just definitely added to it. Not that it isn't a cool display. It's just I gotta grade it as I see it. You know, props and backdrop. That was a 9. Clearly, it looked good. Everything was cool. The couch was cool. The background was cool. You knew what was happening. There's no questions about it. It was really cool there. Compo cutouts, I had to give it 2 because, well, there was no compo cutouts. I mean, there was none. So, you know, as much as I like to give this video a higher score because of how funny and cool it is and how just awesome, you know, it's totally unique. I never seen anybody do anything like this. But with no compo cutouts, you know, I can't give it a higher score than that. So I had to give it a 2. Creativity, originality was a 10, perfect 10 for me, because like that was totally. I've never seen anything like that before in ACBA. I never seen any. That was funny. So this was a sick display. This is kind of a display that I love, but I have to give it a total of 30 out of 50 because I got to be unbiased. You know, I love this display. I think this display is hilarious, but that's how it scores when it comes to the grading system. So that's that. On to the next. All right, now we're going to get into a Blaine 666 display. This was a very cool piece, something totally different, kind of like this was awesome to see Swamp Thing. You know, another DC character, figure that, you know, you're probably not going to see in any ACBA, hardly ever. Used very well and put into a very nice piece with some amazing effects that just turned out to be a very, very cool display. He calls it Thriller. This was just very cool to look at and definitely something neat to see. I like Swamp Thing as a character. I think he's really interesting. And that was definitely very cool to see that in this display. So for posing, I gave it a 7. You know, there wasn't too many figures and too many poses. So I averaged for that part. Swamp Thing's pose was on point, and that was good, so that's fine. Effects was a 10. Perfect 10. Because the effects in this, like with the lighting and everything, it just looked amazing. I mean, it looked like a very cool swamp, you know, either of another planet or, you know, however you want to look at it. It was just, the effects were amazing. It looked awesome. Props and backdrops were a 9. It looked great for the props and the backdrops. I mean, almost a 10. It was very close, but I ended up giving it a 9. it just looked very cool overall. This was one of the best looking displays I think I've seen in the tournament so far. Comic book cutouts was a 7. You know, nothing too crazy. They were good, but just good. Creativity, originality, I gave it a 7 overall. It was a pretty good idea, pretty creative idea. Could have been a little bit more going on. You know, could have been a little bit more, you know, characters around, that kind of stuff, and maybe a little bit more of a story to add to that. But overall, this is an amazing looking display, and I gotta give it a 40 out of 50 for this one. It's just a really, really nice display. It looks amazing. Go check it out. Next. Alright, so for this one, it's going to be F3RPQSs. I actually couldn't find this video. I don't know why. And I couldn't find his channel either. Not sure what's going on with that. But I'll just go over it real quick anyway, just in case. So this was a display where you had like a Carnage, an Iron Man suit. It was a concept armor, and he's kind of like, it was I think it was called like Question or something like that, and Carnage is kind of wondering, and there's like some kind of like, you know, I want to call it like a glass jar or something with some stuff going on in it, and there was like a table. As you guys know, last year he won the tournament, I believe, where he won the ACBA World Championship pretty much. But like I said, you know, each display has to speak for itself. You know, just because somebody did something before, that doesn't mean it carries through now. Each display is its own thing, its own entity. It doesn't matter who it's from. So this display, I didn't really, I don't know, like I haven't read Carnage, the comic book, and it wasn't obvious to me what was happening in the display. I didn't really understand, I didn't really get it, I guess you could say. I didn't understand what was going on in the display. For posing, I gave it a 6 because there wasn't really a lot going on. I mean, there was just like an Iron Man armor standing there, and then there was Carnage, who was posed okay. You could kind of tell he was kind of wondering what was going on, and there was no other characters, so I gave that a 6. Effects was a 4. There weren't too many effects at all, hardly anything. Props and backdrops, I gave it a 7. It was decent, it was okay, but it was in black and white and it didn't match the characters. The characters had color, the figures had color, so it didn't match with them. The cutouts, I gave it a 6. They weren't really that great. And creativity, originality, I gave it a 6 because I guess I just didn't get it, plain and simple. I didn't get the display, I didn't get what was going on, I didn't really understand, you know, what he was trying to say or what he was trying to show, and you know, maybe I'm just being an ignoramus because I haven't read, you know, Carnage, and you know, I don't really read Spider-Man very often. But I just didn't get the display. I didn't understand what was going on, and I didn't really, you know, get any of it. So, I mean, I couldn't really give it a good score when there wasn't really hardly anything going on. There was just like 2 characters standing there. I didn't really understand what it was trying to say at all. So this one for me was a 29 out of 50, unfortunately. Yeah, I just didn't get it, I guess. Alright, let's go on to the next one. Alright, now we're into ShardamusPrime's display. So, yet again, unbiased, remember. This thing was off the chain. This is probably Shardamus's best display ever, and this is my favorite display from the entire first round of the tournament, bar none. This thing was amazing. Every single category, he just knocked it out of the park in every single one. When it came to the idea of what he did, I mean, who would think of doing a, you know, Marvel Legends motorcycle race? I mean, that is just brilliant, man. That is just crazy. You know, I would never think of anybody doing that. As soon as I heard of that idea, even before I even knew I was a judge, when I was like looking over the, you know, the entries and stuff, I was like, wow, that is cool. Just such an awesome idea, and the delivery really paid off. So let's go through them. Posing is a perfect 10. Some of the poses he had the figures in. First of all, every pose was basically perfect. But what really set it over was where you've got, like, you know, you've got Cyclops, and he's posed upside down shooting an optic blast at something in the way so that he can kind of, you know, get over it. Like, you've got Spider-Man, you know, posed in this freaking crazy, like, just crazy pose, man, using his athleticism and, you know, just, you know, the spider powers, man. That was just, his agility is just crazy. You know, every single pose in this thing was just amazing. Everything looked good. Even the poses of the bikes, not even just the figures, but the bikes themselves. Like, you've got Ghost Rider's bike. Actually, he added flames to the bottom, as you could see, so it looked like it was, you know, coming up. Like, that was just, you know, over and above, man. He just went over and above on this one. So, posing a 10, effects 9 out of 10. You know, the flame coming off the bottom, the optic blast, all the different little effects that were here and there. Everything looked great. Just really, really good. Props and backdrop, I gave a 9 for. The thing looked awesome. He built the whole backdrop himself. Like, you could tell, like, and it looked really good. The track looked awesome. You know, this was just really a great display. Comic book cutouts were also a 9. They were just, everything was executed so well. It all looked good. It all looked fluid. They were positioned right. They were easy to see. They were clear. They were able, you know, easy to read. And then finally, creativity, originality was a perfect 10. Like I said, just, you know, a crazy idea to think of Marvel Legends motorcycle race. I don't know where you came up with that, Shardamus, but that was just, this was crazy. Definitely my favorite display I've seen in a long, long time. This thing was just crazy. Okay, on to the next. Okay, this one was MrMarvelicious's. This display was pretty cool overall. There just wasn't a whole lot going on. You know, they were kind of like standing around watching what was happening on, you know, screen. But there wasn't anything else going on in the background. So it was kind of a display that's like, I don't want to say it's incomplete, but, you know, compared to all the others we've had in the tournament so far, there just wasn't enough going on to really warrant, you know, a really high score for this one. I gave this one a 29 out of 50. The posing I gave a 6 because most everyone was standing around. You know, people weren't doing, there wasn't just too much going on, but it wasn't, you know, that bad either. So posing was a 6. Effects were a 2 because there weren't any effects at all. I think that the screen and that stuff falls under props and backdrop. That doesn't fall under effects. So effects was a 2. Props and backdrops was a 9. It looked good. Everything was good. Everything was, you know, the props and the way the screen looked and everything, very nice job on that. So that definitely was a good part of this display. The cutouts were 6. They weren't very clean. They could have been better. The angles on them and everything could have been better. And creativity, originality, I gave it a 6. You know, it's not a bad display overall. It's just it needed a little bit more for me to, you know, get a higher mark. So 29 out of 50 for MrMarvelicious. Nice start though. All right, so this one's going to be 100 Luke Zade. This display was very cool. This was the villains display where they've kind of got their, you know, their shop and all their guns and shit. This was one of my favorite displays for the whole contest too. This thing just looked amazing. The backdrop looked, wow, just stunning. All the props, stunning. You know, all the poses were good. Everything looked legit. This was a display where, you know, he really went over and above. Everything in it, everything in, you know, the piece was exactly the way it should be, exactly how you'd picture it. And it was really like, you know, like a comic book, just came to life, you know, really, really cool for this one. You know, you got the Kingpin and some of the, you know, Spidey villains and stuff, Punisher villains. This just was an awesome display. For posing, I gave it a 9. Everybody looked good. They were doing their thing. They were, you know, getting the guns and, you know, all the different stuff they were working. The effects were great. I gave it an 8 for effects. Everything just really, really looked well. Props and backdrop was a perfect 10, of course. How could it not be? You know, the thing just looked amazing. Comic book cutouts was a 7. Could have been a little bit better there, but not bad. Creativity, originality was an 8. Just a very cool display overall. Not a brand new display. I mean, I have seen people do like villain displays like that before. But definitely this one was very unique and definitely one of my favorite villain type displays there is. Very, very nice. 42 overall for 100 Luke Zade. I don't think I've seen any of his videos before, but this one was just outstanding. So I'll definitely, you know, definitely subscribe to him and check out his stuff. This was just crazy. Okay, now for TenaciousRic's, the party at the X Mansion. This one was really cool overall. It was with 3 3/4 inch figures. Some of the poses were a little off though. I gave him a 6 for posing because the posing just, you know, wasn't exactly perfect. It was okay, but it wasn't great. Effects, I gave him an 8. Everything looked really good. There was some cool effects in the background and everything, and the beer and different stuff like that looked really cool. I really liked the Wolverine as he's sitting down drinking and that kind of stuff. That was very neat. The different food and stuff. Props and backdrops, I gave it a 9. Because all the props, all the beer, and all the, you know, different stuff was going on, the pizza boxes and all that different stuff for the party. That looked great. Comic book cutouts, I gave this a 7. You know, they were okay. You know, average, I'd say. Decent. Creativity, originality, I gave this one a 5. It was a part of the X Mansion that was cool, but there were some other characters in there and stuff that I was just like, you know, like why are they there? And, you know, it just it could have been a lot better overall. I think, you know, for a party at the X Mansion, I think that obviously in 3 3/4 inch scale, we don't have all the X-Men yet. We don't have like a Professor X and stuff like that yet. Soon we're going to be getting one, but definitely I think some of the character choices could have been better, and the overall idea could have been executed just a little bit better. This was a good display though. 35 points for this one. It was a decent display. And finally, last up from my list of the ones I had to judge is MKPN17. This was a cool display. You got the Juggernaut. You know, he's kind of, you know, he's just like looking like he robbed a bank, that kind of stuff. You got the kid there. I mean, this was a really cool cool display. Simple, not too many characters involved. The effects were pretty good. I like the way that he used the lighting and that kind of stuff with the money. That looked good too. This was a very simple display, but it was a nice display too. It was pretty good. I gave this a 35 overall. 8 for posing. The poses were pretty good, but there wasn't that many characters involved. So, you know, when someone's got a display who's got 20 or 30 characters and they're all posed perfectly, and then when someone else just has 1 or 2 characters posed pretty good, I mean, I can't give them the same score, you know, unless it's something crazy like mindless spot tubes or something like that. Effects, I gave this a 7. It looked pretty good with the lighting and everything. Props and backdrops was a 7. The props and backdrops were good. The money was good. The police car and all that stuff was pretty cool. Comic book cutouts was a 7. Could have been better, but not too bad. And creativity originality was a 6. I have seen quite a few Juggernaut videos of Juggernaut, you know, breaking out of stuff and doing stuff like this. This was a cool display overall, though I gave it a 35, so it was good. I liked it. So that is it for my list of the guys I had to review the videos of. I liked, you know, all of the displays. Everything was really good. I don't want anyone to think that I was being, you know, harsh on some people and, you know, and indifferent on others. Also, you know, we're going by this criteria here that the Boog designing came up with, so we have to score according to that. So, you know, if you didn't get the best score ever, or you didn't do as well as some of the other guys, and you feel like your display was really good, it could just be that it wasn't really tailored towards this criteria or this rubric. And if you didn't really tailor your display towards the rubric, like if you didn't have effects, or you didn't have comic book cutouts, obviously that's going to take away from the display overall. So that's just something to keep in mind. It could have been a great display on its own, but we got to mark it by the criteria. So that's that. Anyway, now I'm going to get into some videos that I really liked that weren't in my list of two grade. So definitely my favorite display out of the ones that I didn't rank or grade is got to be Mindless Spot Tubes. This one was probably, yeah, this has got to be my second favorite of the whole round one, or tied with Shardamus. This display was just amazing. It was really cool. Different from something we've seen before. I don't remember ever seeing a video like this before, where you've got, you know, Norman Osborn, crazy, obviously, and you know, with the dissociative personality disorder, you know, layman term, multiple personalities. It's not actually called multiple personalities. It's called dissociative personality disorder. Yeah, this thing was so cool. You got the Green Goblin kind of, you know, like arguing with Norman. Norman's trying to say like he's in control and yada yada, and you know, and then you've got the armors in the background, the Iron Patriot. The lighting is just perfect. The background of the way the wall looks is just, you know, outstanding. This video was just, this was one of the coolest displays I've ever seen for sure, and definitely people are getting better and better at doing displays. Mindless Spot Tube, I don't know if I've seen any of his videos in the past. I don't really remember, but this thing was just, this thing was off the chart. This was so cool. Definitely one of my favorite displays I've ever seen as well. By itself, for a display that really only has one character, I think this is probably my favorite display ever, since this is really all Norman Osborn. It really isn't anybody but Norman. So yeah, for a display that has one character, this is probably my favorite display ever. Just the way he did everything. This thing was just, this was awesome. Definitely, guys, if you have not seen this, this is definitely one of the ones to take a look at from the first round for sure. Okay, now another one that really stood out to me as being amazing is Ryan Riot's display of the villains watching the tube, and you know, playing pool and stuff. The Punisher villains, Spidey villains. This thing was awesome. This was so well done, man. This display was extremely clean, and just like every single piece of it just looked awesome. The way that the characters were positioned, the TV and the effects that he did for the backdrop, how clean the backdrop was and how realistic looking it was. The way you've got the Punisher kind of peeking the door, and you know, like his expression, you know, Deadpool, and you know, kind of like singing along, and you know, the vending machines and everything. Like, man, this display was just amazing too. This is definitely in my, you know, my top 5 favorite displays for round one, and another one of my favorite displays ever. This thing was just amazing, amazing. Check it out. This thing was awesome. Okay, and one more I really liked was WebheadX's Spider-Man Resurrection. That one was just really cool. Other than that, I mean, there's plenty of other ones in there that are just amazing. You guys gotta check them out. Check them all out. Just some awesome, awesome videos. I can't keep commenting because then this video is going to be like an hour long if I go through everybody's. But those are definitely the ones for me that stuck out the most. And there's probably a couple others in there too that did that I just didn't mention. So everybody else has got some great displays too. An amazing round one to the tournament. I want to give a big shout out to Boog and thank him for including me in this and involving me in this. It's an honor to even be involved in any way, shape, or form with this. You know, ACBA and the art form it is. I mean, it's so cool to see what people put together and how we kind of share ideas with each other. You know, we see some displays and, you know, kind of like, I want to do that. You know what I mean? You get these ideas from each other, and you know, this year had some really good entries in round one. You know, some of my favorite articulate comic book art pieces I've ever seen. So definitely check out all the videos, guys, if you haven't. Thanks again, Boog. And if you guys have any questions about anything, you know, any video or anything, send me a message, and I'll let you know what I think about it. That's it for now, guys. Trev saying peace. Till next round. Later.